Welcome to Global News on Signature TV. I am Barry Kumo Ado. In the headlines, Nigeria Revenue Service sets July 31 deadline for large companies to comply with e-invoicing. President-elect of NBA pledges to lead with integrity, fairness, and accountability. Senegal's Faye elected ECOWAS chairman, and Iran hits out at Gulf neighbors as U.S. presses on with strikes. Details in a moment.
Signature TV, news in your pocket.
Nigeria Revenue Service (NRS) has set July 31st as deadline for large companies to wholly adopt the National Electronic Invoicing and Electronic Fiscal System. Statement by Dare Adekambi, Special Advisor on Media to NRS Chairman, said the organization has already commenced compliance monitoring activities in order to evaluate the level of adherence to the e-invoicing mandate among large taxpayers. Statement noted that NRC appreciates the cooperation of taxpayers and remains committed to providing the necessary support to ensure the successful implementation of a national e-invoicing regime. The e-invoicing platform officially went live for large taxpayers on August 1, 2025, following extensive consultations. Implementation for large taxpayers was later extended to November 2025 due to operational and transitional considerations. On February 17, the service announced the continuation of a phased rollout of its invoicing and EFS to medium and emerging taxpayers. The National Broadcasting Commission and the Independent National Electoral Commission are set to introduce joint broadcast monitoring measures ahead of the 2027 general elections. The initiative will tackle unethical broadcast practices and promote responsible electoral coverage nationwide. The NBC Director General, Charles Ebuebu, will disclose to newsmen in Abuja, said the Commission will collaborate with INEC to improve election monitoring through advanced technology. Said agencies could no longer operate separately, especially with the growth of digital and online platforms. Said that joint monitoring would enable NBC and INEC to address violations collectively rather than independently. The DG added that NBC will be engaging with stakeholders, including digital platform regulators, to strengthen election monitoring. President-elect of the Nigerian Bar Association, Onyekasola Badejo Okunsanya, says that victory in the association's national election is a collective triumph for lawyers committed to building a more inclusive and responsive bar. In a statement issued after election, Badejo Okunsanya thanked NBA members for entrusting her with the leadership of the association, describing their support as both humbling and a call to service. She said her election reflected members' belief in a shared vision of a bolder bar that works for everyone, saying a victory is not ours alone, but for every member who believe that the association can be stronger, more inclusive, more responsive, and better positioned to serve the interests of all lawyers. The NBA president-elect also called on members of the association to put the contest behind them and work together to advance the legal profession. She congratulated the fellow contestants for participating in the election and said she looked forward to working with them. To strengthen the association while expressing appreciation to members of our campaign team, volunteers, supporters, mentors, friends, and family for standing by her throughout the race. Looking ahead of her tenure, the President-elect pledged to lead with integrity, fairness, and accountability. One of the teachers rescued after spending 56 days in a custody of kidnappers in Oyo State, Zacchaeus Olatunde, is claiming that he and other captives were released by the abductors before security personnel eventually escorted them home. Olatunde, who made the claim during a radio telephone interview program at the weekend, recounted the ordeal of teachers and pupils abducted from schools in Orire local government area of Oyo State. According to him, the captives were permanently blindfolded throughout their captivity. They were unable to determine where they had been taken to, and their abductors communicated in Hausa, Nupe, English, and Yoruba, and insisted they were members of Islamic State West Africa province. Teachers said the kidnappers ensured they were fed twice daily, but placed strict restrictions on their religious practices. According to him, teachers were unable to bathe or wash their clothes throughout the 56 days in captivity, saying their release came unexpectedly after the kidnappers' commander informed them they were free. No fewer than 30 people have fared dead after a canoe capsized at Malamawa Yandumse village in Rigim local government area of Jigawa State on Sunday evening. An eyewitness told newsmen that the incident occurred when a canoe carrying about 40 passengers, mostly women and children, capsized. Rescue operations are still ongoing as at the time of this report, and families have been asked to identify the bodies of the victims for burial. Confirming the incident, the Director of Planning at the Jigawa State Emergency Management Agency, Sema Mohammed Balla Sanusi, said the exact number of casualties and survivors are yet to be confirmed, and the exact cause of the accident is yet to be established. Also speaking, the chairman of the Emergency Management Committee, Habitu Dauda, appealed to the public to remain calm and refrain from spreading unverified information until the relevant authorities release an official statement. The Abia State government has assured residents affected by flooding along the ongoing Owerenta Road reconstruction corridor that the situation is temporary and will be addressed before the completion of the project. The government gave the assurance in a statement issued by the Commissioner for Information, OK Kanu, following the circulation of a viral video showing flood water within a residential compound along the road. The government attributed the flooding to the natural terrain of the area, saying the affected compound had long been vulnerable to flooding because it sits on a downward slope from the main road. The government also dismissed political interpretations surrounding the incident, insisting that its priority remained the welfare of residents and the successful execution of the project, insisting that the reconstruction and dualization of the road were intended to improve residents' quality of life, enhance road safety, and support economic activities. It recalled that similar engineering concerns encountered during the reconstruction of the Onimo-Umaya Road corridor have been successfully resolved, and pledged to apply the same level of professionalism to the Owerenta Road project. The Lagos State government has commenced the controlled demolition of a fire-ravaged Great Niger Insurance House, which was severely damaged by a fire on Christmas Eve last year. The exercise, being coordinated through the Lagos State Emergency Management Agency (LASEMA), follows a comprehensive structural integrity assessment that deemed the building unsafe. Permanent Secretary of LASEMA, Olufemi Oke, said in a statement that the demolition was being carried out in line with international best practices for urban safety, disaster risk management, and public health protection. Oke said that the operation will be executed in a controlled manner to minimize disruption while ensuring the safety of personnel and the public throughout the exercise. Explained further that the demolition team will maintain close coordination with the Nigeria Police Force, NASEMA, LASTMA, Fire Service, Neighborhood Service, and other relevant emergency and regulatory agencies to ensure adequate security, effective crowd control, and overall public safety. Nigeria's petrol imports surged by 207% in June 2026, reversing earlier gains recorded in domestic refinery as local supply declined sharply. The data from the Nigeria Midstream and Downstream Petroleum Authority is anything to go by. An analysis of the authority's monthly petrol supply data for the first 6 months of 2026 showed that while domestic refineries remained a major source of supply for most of the period, imports increased significantly in June, following a drop in local output. In January, petrol imports averaged 24.8 million litres per day, accounting for 38.2% of total supply, while domestic supply stood at 40.1 million litres per day, representing 61.8% of its 64.9 million liters per day. The 6-month data showed that Nigeria relied mainly on domestic supply between February and May, with local sources contributing more than 85% of petrol supply during the period. The development signals renewed dependency on imported petrol despite the federal government's efforts to achieve energy self-sufficiency through increased local refining capacity. NMDPPRA data also showed that crude oil supply to domestic refineries declined in June. Still to come, police caned protesters during march by India's cockroach movement. US Vice President J.D. Vance announces birth of baby boy. Stay with us.
Health is more than a diagnosis. It's your lifestyle, your choices, and your future. Join us on Inside Health, your weekly deep dive into the stories, science, and solutions shaping your well-being. From expert interviews to real-life journeys of healing and hope, we cover it all.
One of the complications of
President Bola Tinubu has called on other African countries to lend their voices to unanimously condemn the ongoing Afrophobic attacks in South Africa. He said that a united voice will send a clear message to South Africa. Such intolerance is absolutely not acceptable under any form. Speaking in Freetown, Sierra Leone, during the 69th ordinary session of the ECOWAS Authority of Heads of State and Government, President Tinubu was represented by Vice President Kashim Shettima, informed the African leaders that the Nigerian government had already evacuated over 1,490 of its citizens from harm's way in 7 batches and is prepared to engage further in this matter. It declared Nigeria's support for the newly developed ECOWAS Compact for the future of regional integration, noting that the document reinforces the region's shared commitment to rebuilding trust between citizens and public institutions, ensuring that regional integration remains resilient and relevant in the face of evolving geopolitical realities. The Nigerian leader also urged the West African leaders to intensify collective action against insecurity and unconstitutional governance as reflected in the compact, while calling for the enthronement of the rule of law and compliance with the regional protocol on democracy and good governance. For our part, the Deputy Secretary General of the United Nations, Amina Mohammed, declared the UN support for all the initiatives of ECOWAS and countries of West African Mission and the Sahel to fight terrorism in the region. The high point of the meeting was the signing of an intergovernmental agreement for the African Atlantic Gas Pipeline project. Meanwhile, Senegalese President Bassirou Faye has been elected chairman of the Economic Community of West African States. Faye was elected on Sunday at the 69th ordinary session of the ECOWAS Authority of Heads of State and Government held in Lungi, Sierra Leone, to succeed Sierra Leonean President Julius Bayo. In another diplomatic win for the French-speaking West African country, Birame Diop, former Minister of the Armed Forces, was elected President of the ECOWAS Commission for the 2026-2030 term. It is the first time Senegal has been elected to preside over the Commission since the bloc was created in 1975. Diop succeeds Ahmed Traoré, Gambian diplomat who held the position since 2022. As ECOWAS chairman, Faye 46 would oversee the affairs of the organization for 1 year. Senegalese president said in a statement that collective security, economic sovereignty, and fidelity to the founding fathers will chart the course of Faye's term. Faye applauded ECOWAS and pledged to work towards a reconciled and united West Africa. United States and Iran traded strikes on Monday as U.S. deaths in the renewed fighting climbed to 3 and more ships came under attack in the strategic Straits of Hormuz. Oil prices surged to 1-month high as the United States and Iran tussled for control of a vital trade, with Brent crude rising above $91 a barrel, the highest price since June 11. Since the start of the war on February 28, Iran has struck back by targeting U.S. allies and military assets in its own neighborhood and by virtually blocking the waterway through which a fifth of the world's oil supplies transited prior to the war. A preliminary deal aimed at ending the war has collapsed as the foes fight to break a deadlock over the Strait of Hormuz. Iran Revolutionary Guard said on Monday that 2 oil tankers trying to transit the strait exploded and were brought to a halt, while the UK Marine Trade Operations Agency said that the vessel was on fire in the strait, citing information from military authorities. On Sunday, U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio called on countries around the world to share the burden of protecting global shipping, since some people in Iran want to control the strait and hold that as leverage against the world. A fragile truce between Iran and the United States was shattered for reports of Iranian attack on ships in the strait, though Rubio said he will continue to try to reach a diplomatic solution. Police used batons on supporters of India's youth-led cockroach movement on Monday as thousands attempted to march to Parliament in New Delhi despite authorities denying permission for the demonstration. The movement, which began months ago, has grown into one of the biggest public challenges to Prime Minister Narendra Modi during his third term in office, attracting widespread support on social media before expanding into nationwide protest. Tensions intensified after activist Sonam Wakchok, who had been on hunger strike, was taken to hospital by police on Saturday, prompting thousands of supporters to gather overnight at Jantar Mantar in central New Delhi ahead of a planned march on the opening day of the Parliament's monsoon season. Delhi police said discussions had been held with members of the Cockroach Jantar Party, but no agreement had been reached before the protest. Deputy Commissioner of Police Shashin Sharma said the protest venue had already exceeded its capacity, with about 10,000 demonstrators gathered by Monday morning, and warned that allowing more people into the area could create security concerns. Despite a heavy security presence, protesters marched peacefully while chanting slogans demanding the resignation of Prime Minister Narendra Modi and Education Minister Dharmendra Pradhan. Savra Das, spokesperson for the Cockroach Jantar Party, said the movement remained open to dialogue with the government despite the standoff. Cockroach movement emerged after question papers for India's National Medical School entrance examination were leaked in May, forcing more than 2 million candidates to retake the examination. Many protesters said they joined the demonstration to demand greater transparency and accountability in the country's examination system. Hungarian President Thomas Sukhoi has agreed to resign after signing a constitutional amendment that would end his presidency at midnight on Sunday, bringing to a close a political standoff that threatened to trigger a constitutional crisis. The amendment approved by Parliament this week was introduced by Prime Minister Peter Magyar's governing Tisza party, which had sought to remove Sukhoi from office since taking power following its landslide election victory in April. Sukhoi had 5 days to either approve the amendment or refuse to sign it, a move that could have resulted in impeachment proceedings and prolonged political uncertainty. Confirming his decision on Saturday evening, Hungary's president signed the amendment but criticized the government's actions, accusing it of undermining Hungary's constitutional order. In a statement, it said the amendment represented a breaking point in Hungarian constitutional democracy and argued that the core values of a free society have been trampled underfoot for the sake of political power. Constitutional amendment ends Hungary's president's term on the grounds of serious loss of confidence and forms part of a broader package of political reforms introduced by the new administration. Among its provisions, the 17th constitutional amendment removes the head of Hungary's constitutional court and bars members of parliament who have served 3 terms from seeking re-election. Restriction affects more than half of the current lawmakers from former Prime Minister Viktor Orban's Fidesz party. United States Vice President J.D. Vance has announced the birth of his son, saying both the newborn and his wife, Dr. Vance, are healthy. Vance made the announcement in a statement shared on Sunday, expressing gratitude to the medical personnel who assisted during the delivery. Vance also paid tribute to the medical teams at Walter Reed Medical Center and the White House Medical Unit for their care and support. The birth marks the latest edition for Vance and Usha, who got married in 2014 and previously had 3 children before welcoming their new son. Vance rose to national prominence after the publication of his best-selling memoir, Hillbilly Elegy, was elected Vice President of the United States alongside President Donald Trump. Since assuming office, he has remained a key figure in the administration while balancing his public responsibilities with family life. Sports. Spain are the new FIFA World Cup champions after defeating Argentina 1-0 in a captivating final, securing their second World Cup title with a disciplined and determined performance. After 90 minutes of intense football, Spain's solitary goal proved decisive as Argentina threw everything forward in the closing stages, but Spain's defense stood firm to preserve the lead until the final whistle. The moment the referee ended the match, Spanish players rushed onto the pitch in celebration, embracing one another. Thousands of traveling fans erupted inside the stadium. For Argentina, the disappointment was evident as several players dropped to the turf in disbelief before receiving applause from their supporters for a tournament marked by resilience and quality football. The focus then shifted to medal celebration. The match officials presented medals to both finalists before Spain's captain stepped forward to receive the FIFA World Cup trophy amid fireworks that illuminated the stadium. Confetti filled the air. The victory marks another milestone in Spanish football history as caps an impressive tournament in which they combined defensive solidity with attacking flair. Spain's head coach praised his players for the discipline, teamwork and composure under pressure, describing triumph as a reward for many years of preparation and commitment. Argentina's coach congratulated Spain on the victory while expressing pride in his team's determination throughout the competition, but acknowledged the pain of defeat, even as he insisted his players had represented their country with honor. Entertainment now. Burna Boy delivered an unforgettable performance alongside Shakira at the inaugural FIFA World Cup final halftime show. Historic 11-minute show took place during the final on Sunday at the New Jersey Stadium and also featured performances by Justin Bieber, Madonna and BTS, the South Korean boy band. The show opened with dramatic performance by Madonna, followed by BTS and Justin Bieber, who performed Hallelujah, ending its set with the words, "It's World Cup, Hallelujah." Burna Boy and Shakira then delivered a colorful performance of Daya Daya. The collaborative song, as dancers, including children and adults dressed in vibrant yellow costumes, added to the spectacle. The Super Bowl-style entertainment performance is curated by Chris Martin of Coldplay and aimed at supporting the FIFA Global Citizen Education Fund. Gianni Infantino, FIFA president, said the event would help advance access to education and football opportunities for children around the world. Rema, Burna Boy, and Davido earlier performed at various high-profile events at the 2026 FIFA World Cup, marking a historic moment for Nigerian music on the global stage. That's a wrap on Global News. I am Barry Kumo Ado. Thank you very much for watching.